Hello, and welcome to the Shallow Proclamation. My name is Paul, and today I'm joined by Barry White, as you'll hear when he starts talking.
I apologise. My voice is about an octave lower than normal due to a slight cold. Although I almost wish I could turn this voice on demand. You know, I can sing lower than at any other point. So yeah.
It would be good, wouldn't it? I've had a couple of times in my life where I've had a bit of a cold that's really sent my voice super low. Yeah. And it was quite nice. It would be nice to do that all the time. Alas, it is not the way, but...
you almost want to get the most out of it, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. If you've got to do any recording, you're doing any music recording soon, you get some bass parts in. So
yeah, I am now.
Well, hi everyone. Great for you. Great to have you here with us. Good to see some names popping up as the voice of the Animus. Yes. Good to see some names we recognise here: Paul Hunter, Chemdog, Ponjo123, Gutteridge, Paul Richards. We've got Gordon W, Tyson Sci-Fi. Good to see you guys. Definitely recognise a lot of your names from the comments, which is great. Sexy voice there.
Wow, thanks for the support, guys.
It's good to have the community. So we're kind of diving into our season 2 review. I don't know about you, Thomas. Someone said on the comments the other day, it's given that it's taken sort of 4 months for you to get where you are. How are you feeling about the task that still lies ahead of you? I'm still feeling pretty good about it, to be honest. Particularly, I think the first 2 seasons, or the first few seasons at least, are much longer anyway. There's more stories, more episodes, whereas later on it does get shorter. So I'm not feeling too concerned. But I've actually enjoyed it. I've certainly, I don't know about you, but I think I'd say I've enjoyed season 2 more than I enjoyed season 1. Yeah,
likewise. I think we've been a bit slower getting through season 2, probably for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I think I'd agree. It feels like it's found its feet a bit more overall. There are exceptions within there, and we can get onto that. But overall, it felt really strong. And once you told me that by the end of season 2, you said we've got through the stories now that you were most worried about going into this experiment. That made me feel a lot better because it's only uphill from here, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Although a few people have then kind of commented on that and been like, when I said it doesn't get worse than this, and they're going, really? What about such and such? And I'm going, yeah, maybe. Like, no, I think there's probably there's definitely some clunkers that we're going to get, but Web Planet is it's very much its own thing. So, but
yeah,
anyway,
let's not have any illusions about which story we're referring to here.
No. Yeah, we know, and Paul Hunter there. I can't click on these comments. You can.
Can you not?
No. I'm only here to represent the citizens of Vortis who have been sorely misrepresented to date. So, I don't know what you're talking about. But I guess what we kind of thought we'd do is similar to what we did last time. Really, we've got some questions from you guys that we want to go through. We'll probably just we'll chat a bit about each story. We don't want to be too laboured. And we'll have a bit of a think about characters and how they've developed or disappeared as well. And we'll kind of, if you guys have got comments, we'll try and jump on those, kind of questions and bits as they arrive as well. The idea that hopefully we won't be here for ages and ages to keep you guys. And hopefully, unlike last time, Thomas won't need to go to the toilet in the middle either. That's
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Go easy on that glass of water, mate. All right.
Yeah, this is my allowance.
So
just one quick thing. Very thankful that you've all joined and given up at least part of your evening to be with us out of all the things you could be doing. So it's wonderful to have you here. And as you may have seen, we've almost hit 400 subscribers, so we're 7 off. So who knows, maybe we can hit 400 during the course of this live stream. That would be quite exciting, wouldn't it? But
so if you've not hit subscribe, now's the time. See, part of me knows, though, that this is how YouTube works is people go, I'll probably just unsubscribe now because you've said that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just to wind you up.
Because it looks a bit desperate, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Anyway, it's not about the subs anyway.
Absolutely.
It's good to have people on board. It does. I don't know how the algorithm works. No one knows really. It's all kind of deep magic hidden away beneath the scenes somewhere. So yeah. Should we crack on thinking about some of the stories?
Let's do it.
So the first one of the season was Planet of Giants, and that feels ages ago to me.
Yeah. I suppose, doesn't it?
It was a relatively long time, but I guess that it feels like, I would say that story and the one that followed it, Dalek Invasion of Earth, they were part of, I think we said at the time, they were part of the first block of production from Series 1. So they feel, to me at least, quite different. Maybe they only feel different because I know that they were part of that. I don't know if I would have noticed otherwise, I don't know. But maybe it feels different as well because I know at the end of the one after, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, Susan goes, so that's quite a big thing. But Planet of Giants, I mean, yeah, any kind of thoughts back on that one, looking at it now?
Yeah, I really liked it, actually. Looking at some of the comments, I mean, you primarily respond to the comments and I do more of the editing and the videos, but I do look at the comments sometimes. And it seems like a lot of people aren't a fan of that story, but I quite liked it. I mean, it's quite different, isn't it? I think you said at the time that it doesn't feel like Doctor Who, in a sense. I mean, it takes place in someone's back garden, basically, doesn't it? And a bathroom sink. So... not typical kind of destinations you go to for a rip-roaring time and space adventure show. But I thought that's what made it interesting, was that it was still pretty dramatic and just some great kind of innovations there with the sets. And we've mentioned it already, the sets.
There we go. We got the sets in there.
But do you not think it had some really clever moments, just like climbing up the drain pipe and just like, the Bunsen burner, starting that explosion, holding the match and kind of running with it to strike it. I just thought it was really well done, actually.
Yeah, all the ideas are really good in there, aren't they? The ideas of kind of, like you say, with the match and being small and then trying to lift up the telephone and all those things. And yeah, there's so many great shots in there. What do you think about the sets? It is a really kind of, I guess it's like a really brave thing to try, isn't it? They say, well, let's just have a go at this thing that it could kind of be quite bad. You could get it very badly wrong, but it does look great. Like we said, that the scene where they're in the bath, by the plug in the sink, it was so well done. There were a few shots, weren't there, of kind of what looked like them standing in front of a projection of something, which even though like they clearly are a projection, they're not in the space with it, they still kind of worked. There were some great scenes. I think when the Doctor and Susan were potentially going to be flushed down the plug hole, I think they were hiding in the overflow and you had the water coming down. Some really nice shots there. It's still in my mind now. It does feel like an odd story, and it feels, given what we've had in the rest of the season, it feels quite a little bit out of place in some ways. Like it doesn't quite gel with everything else that's gone on. But I think you kind of, it's that kind of thing. It was about like sort of insecticide, wasn't it? And pesticide stuff, and that feels a very odd thing to be doing a Doctor Who story about, kind of with no sort of real alien threat or anything like that.
And it's the fact that the reign of terror at the end of season 1, that has that. It kind of ends with our destiny is in the stars or something. There's a slight sense of that. They're going to go big for series 2, and then you start with that story.
Our destiny's in the stars or the back garden.
Yeah,
one of the two.
Exactly.
No, I thought it was a good one though. I don't think you would start a season with it now. I guess maybe they didn't need to have a kind of, all singing, all dancing blast off to season 2. Maybe because the show barely stopped running in the first place. I think we said there was only about 5 or 6 weeks, if that, between season 1 and 2 anyway. Whereas now you kind of want your opening stories to be these big, things that get people in. And I think we said, actually, so it'd be good to talk about Dalek Invasion Earth, which was the next one. We said at the time, I think some people in production had wanted that to be first, but obviously, because we know what happens at the end, you couldn't switch the order of those round. It very much had to be the last one with Susan in. So, I mean, how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I thought that one was a really good story. How many parts was it again? It was quite long, wasn't it?
6 parts, that one.
Yes. But yeah, again, some really good moments because this was the first Dalek invasion of Earth, wasn't it? So the scale of it was pretty impressive. The fact that you had the shots of the Daleks in iconic parts of London was really nice. Had some slightly weird moments, didn't it, with the Robo Men? Men.
Barbara, dear me.
But then a very emotional finish, which we were surprised by. I think, well, you obviously had seen it a while back, but seeing it again together, there was a sense of, even though Susan hasn't been especially well used, or hadn't been before that, it was surprisingly emotional when she left, actually, and her departure was well done. It felt like they gave her something really good to work with, which felt nice, but you kind of ended up wishing, if only she'd be given more before that point, because the whole reason she left the show was because she felt underserved by it, so, or partly that, wasn't it? So,
yeah, you're right that, it has that emotional ending, and I had seen it before, and of course I'd seen the Hartnell speech loads of times that he gives then, but very rarely had I seen it in the context of the story, just as like a kind of outtake. Yes, the jolly good smack bottom.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. In some sense, I'm quite surprised how emotional it was, because we said at the time, we sat there in silence watching it, and I'm surprised how emotional it was. Firstly, because as I've said so many times, so often the classic series just kind of dispenses of companions quite quickly without, with very little kind of don't make much noise about it, really.
Yeah.
But also, given how underdeveloped Susan was, I'm surprised how emotional it felt. I was just thinking today, we'll come into this a little bit when we talk about Vicki, but I think I said when Susan left that, it's a shame she's not been back for the modern series, because, she was there at the beginning. Shame they've not had William Russell back, all those things. Why not have Carole Ford back? But the character of Susan, the way she was depicted in the show at least, she never really does much. She's the Doctor's granddaughter, which gives her that special thing, but they don't really use that in any way. And actually, Vicki as a character is much more of the granddaughter character. So, it's a shame that they didn't get used. But the whole Dalek invasion of Earth thing, it's a great story, and you can see that they wanted to really do something new, big and exciting with the Daleks, and putting them into London. We said at the time, there's particularly those shots, can't remember which episode it was in, but where they're running through the streets, pushing the guy in the wheelchair, they're, Piccadilly Circus and all those bits and bobs. It looks great, and you can imagine as a kid, and I may have said, we're probably just repeating ourselves here, but I think John Pertwee said about, the scary thing is having creatures like on your toilet in Tooting Bec,
Right.
Whereas something in space is not as scary, but for a child, if you put it into their own context, so
That's interesting. Yeah, it felt very grounded and real, didn't it? Maybe in contrast to a later Dalek story in this series, but we'll get on to that.
Interestingly, we've got a couple of comments there saying, we said, hadn't we, Paul Richards there said Carole Ford wanted to be more confident and hands-on with the aliens because she's telepathic.
Yeah.
And you got glimpses of that, didn't you? In a couple of the stories, there were moments when they used her, and she was allowed to be a bit more alien in the first story and stuff, and in Edge of Destruction, but that kind of disappeared. I don't know. So Gordon W says about sadly the replacements of Susan, like Vicki, are basically the same characters with no development and plot relevance. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because in some ways, I suppose that's true. But interestingly, Vicki feels very different to me, even though, because I was thinking, but she's from the future. Well, Susan's from the future. I guess they've tried to bring that in a bit. They've used that a few times. I think the difference really is I just buy. I buy the idea that if someone turned around and said you could just say that Vicki is the Doctor's granddaughter, I'd go, yeah, well, that's believable.
Right.
Because the relationship between her and Hartnell, the chemistry they have together has been so good. But we're pushing into that gets us into the rescue. The rescue is when Vicki appeared.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that? Because it was a little two-parter.
Yeah,
a little bit different.
That was quite good, actually, wasn't it? I thought it was interesting the bit where Barbara kills Vicky's pet accidentally.
Yes.
She thinks she's trying to protect her, but actually it's a pet. So that was an interesting moment, Barbara kind of making a mistake. It was very well intentioned, but it led to some trauma there. But then, and then it obviously kind of set her up to, she was kind of on her own, orphaned in a sense, and the doctor says, "Do you want to come with us?" So that was quite nicely done, the way they introduced her. I mean, part of me almost wishes that they had a few stories with just Ian and Barbara as companions to the doctor before they brought in a Susan replacement. I think that would have been interesting to see. But
that was kind of one of the questions. Good. I think it was Bill Bacon asked, did they need to include Vicki?
Right. It's a good question. I guess no, not necessarily. But has Vicki brought some interesting things to Doctor Who? Maybe. I think it's quite nice to have a young person travelling with the Doctor, especially if you're watching the show as a young person, because then they're kind of your way in a way, aren't they? But do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting they didn't decide to keep Ian and Barbara just for maybe even one or two stories without anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, I guess that, I think someone said this on the comments at some point, that by the end of this season, it feels like the show is about the Doctor. Whereas actually season 1 and parts of season 2, it still feels like it's an ensemble thing. So, because particularly in season 1, I think I noticed it more that Ian is like, he's the hero quite often or he's doing lots of action and bits and bobs. And the Doctor's, doing things, but he's just one of the group in some ways, even though the show's called Doctor Who. It kind of gives quite a lot of time to everybody. So, maybe they just thought at that point they still needed to fill out the cast and have a fourth member. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of
but
I've
enjoyed,
numbers.
Yeah, I mean, but I've enjoyed Vicki, much more than I've enjoyed Susan. And I think really I've probably overlooked Vicki as a companion before, never gave her much thought. But from what I've seen of her in this series, I've just been like, oh no, she's been great. And I've really loved her, kind of relationship with the Doctor. And, I think, was it, who was that in the comments said here about her being, Paul Richards said, Vicki is very upbeat and up for the adventure.
Yeah.
And I think that's really noticeable in comparison to Susan, who Susan just seemed to be sort of going, oh, grandfather, and, cowering and screaming a lot, which wasn't Carole Ann Ford's fault, but...
yeah.
So Vicki maybe brought something different in some ways.
Yeah. That's interesting from Gordon W. They serve the same purpose in the story. I can see that you would view it as just basically a substitution, kind of just a replacement. But I guess what we're saying is that might be the case, but yeah, Vicki feels like she's been given a lot more to do than Susan was. Especially when we get to the Romans. I think she plays quite an important role in that, and the great chemistry between her and the Doctor, as you have mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, a few people have said there in the comments here as well, haven't they, about maybe they didn't want to change the dynamic too much. Their stimulus responder said about, given how popular the show was.
Yeah.
And James A. Fitzpatrick, I think the reason for 4 characters was that it was easy to write for 2 pairs, and I think, that I can see that as well.
That's true. A lot of the stories divide them into 2 pairs, don't they?
Yeah. Or just chuck Barbara in a room full of smoke and just leave her for 2.5 episodes or whatever.
Yes.
But
well,
no,
speaking of...
Go on. Oh, sorry, I was just about to say the rescue.
Oh, go on.
I was just about to say, I mean, I thought it was a serviceable story to get Vicki in. I don't think anyone... Well, every episode, I'm sure, is someone's favourite. I was going to say it's probably not going to be ever remembered as a classic, and it does have that rather kind of funny Scooby-Doo ending, I'd have got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids. But it does bring Vicki in nicely, so, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit workman-like, maybe. Well, speaking of the Romans, that's the next one, right? The next story.
Yeah, that was the next one, the Romans, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, what's not to like about the Romans? Yeah, it's just such a joyous one to watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so. I mean, I'd quite happily go back and watch that again. I mean, that's a test, isn't it? I think when you think to yourself, out of what we've just watched, what would you happily sit through again? And I would definitely sit through the Romans. And I'd also, I think the Romans is one that I think I'd be prepared to show people, you know, like not people who are not Doctor Who fans. Obviously, it's not typical Doctor Who, so you couldn't say this is a good introduction into it, perhaps, but it works as a thing. You know, I think people would enjoy it still, unless you're very cynical about everything, and you know. But the comedy was great. It was so light-hearted and funny, and just was it Nero, wasn't it, chasing Barbara around? Again, we've said Barbara not having much luck with with men. But you've got that, and that was so good. There was so much humour in it, and Hartnell and Vicki together. So Hartnell and O'Brien, the Doctor and Vicki together are great. Absolutely. Paul Richards there. Romans is a terrific story. It looks great. Has some hilarious moments. Absolutely. Hartnell talking about fisticuffs. Yeah. It's just funny. And also the fact that you've got that great scene at the beginning and the end where they are in the villa, and they've been at the beginning, they've been there for like a couple of months, just having a nice time, enjoying society. They're all there in their togas. Yeah.
Barbara and Ian are messing around a bit.
Barbara and Ian have clearly been up to something. And there's that great kind of conceit at the end, isn't there? Like they never cross paths through the whole story, and they don't realise that all of them have ended up in the same place and come back again. It does get mentioned in the next story, doesn't it? I think Barbara and Vicki have a conversation in the TARDIS, and she says, I meant to tell you that we did this, but the Mountain Mauler of Montana, yes, that was didn't Hartnell say that about when he was talking about fisticuffs?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the slightly dark thing about the Romans is how it ends in implying that the Doctor basically gave Nero the idea to burn down Rome. And there's that really interesting moment with the Doctor and Vicki, which is why I think Vicki is given quite a lot to do in that episode, because she kind of challenges him and says, do you realise this is kind of, you might have induced that historic event? And the Doctor's like, oh, no, I couldn't have. And there's almost a sense that he's quite stubborn there, that he wouldn't kind of accept responsibility for making a mistake like that, which I think is a trope we do see in the Doctor later on in the modern era especially, that often he will admit when he's wrong, but sometimes he can be quite arrogant and stubborn in a sense. I couldn't possibly get things wrong. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a great story, isn't it? Yeah. And it whips by. I mean, it's 4 parts, but it doesn't drag, and it's probably one of the little diamonds in the series, really. There, I'd say. Yeah. Do you want to talk Web Planet?
Oh man, I mean, it's rubbish, isn't it? It is a mess and a half of a Doctor Who story.
I mean. I want to. I
think that's for the Romans, but here we go.
Now it's started now, the Zabi talk.
Zabi.
Well, here's the thing, though. We said we really enjoyed the first episode, didn't we?
Yeah.
We thought the first episode set up some really good stuff. Just say one nice thing about the story, please. Is this like Missy? Say something nice.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there were things, as we went through, I realised it became a bit of a slog for us, and we kept referencing it again in other stories.
Yeah, and it's possible we kind of both wore each other down because we were just saying negative things.
But we said there were things in it. So the initial setup in that first episode is great. Yeah. And there were lots of kind of things where we kind of said, oh, that's a really nice shot. That model looks great. There were bits where we were kind of saying there's nice ideas in there. But it's just so long and drawn out, and the execution obviously doesn't live up to the vision. And I think the vision is a good one. I think we can agree on that they really tried to do something that was just way beyond what they could manage, though.
Yeah.
And it is. Yeah, I mean, people are right. It does feel very alien, doesn't it?
Oh, someone's popular.
I know. I'm just going to have to turn off my notification.
Yeah.
As Paul Richards said, it's a wonderful, strange, alien atmosphere. It is probably the most alien thing we've seen so far in the series. If you smear enough Vaseline over the lens,
exactly. High definition isn't going to do much, is it?
The takeaway. I mean, I can't remember if I said this in the thing. I heard, I don't know if it's just a rumor, that when they cleaned up the film, the footage to put it on the DVD or whatever they were doing it for, they cleaned up all this smudging, and then someone said, "You do realise that's supposed to be there." To put it back on. I don't know if that's true, but
that's quite funny. Yeah.
Sorry, everything's pinging here.
Yeah. No. Well, what's interesting is, obviously I'm a Christian and you're a Christian, and what's funny about the Web Planet is that it's actually the Doctor Who story we've seen so far that has resonated with me most from a kind of spiritual perspective. In that, I think it has a really interesting message about these warring tribes that are kind of enslaved by this ominous kind of underground figure, but then a sense that they fear the light, but then they realise that the light is good, and they kind of reconcile at the end. I think that's a really good message. It's a shame that it's kind of drowned out by the execution. Because I would say, even if you've got that going on and that level of sort of a profound kind of idea you're exploring, when you have people running around going zombie, it's kind of hard to. They're not helping themselves, are they?
No, I mean, no, you're right, and I think that only kind of surfaced near the very end, didn't it? Maybe in episode 5, maybe even in episode 6. So I just don't feel it really got developed into anything, did it? You know, it wasn't given room, despite the fact that the story is it feels so long.
Yeah,
they didn't. That angle didn't seem to get a huge amount of development, which was a shame. Talking about that though, someone did say, "Oh, I'm surprised you didn't talk about it that much." In the Romans, was of course you get the reveal at the end of the guy. Can't remember what his name was now.
Is it Tavius or something?
Tavius, maybe. Yeah.
Tavius.
Who you see at the end, he had a cross, and his thing was, and actually that kind of explains his actions through the story. As a Christian living in Rome under Nero. There's kind of more. Yeah, we kind of. I think. Well, I mean, we never said much about it at the time, but it kind of. We just sort of went past it, didn't we? But
that was quite interesting to see, though, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And then, speaking of that, we then go on to the Crusade, which felt like a massive kind of improvement from the Web Planet. I feel like we need to say we were harsh about the Web Planet, but I do not in any way think it kind of tarnished Series 2 as a whole, which I think is a testament to the series. Like, even though in the middle of it you have this story, which I think is very ambitious but just doesn't work, and I'm completely fine with that. The good thing about classic Doctor Who, or a lot of Doctor Who, is that a story might not work, but that's okay. You stay on for the next story, and it suddenly picks up again, and it's great. What's really hard is when Doctor Who is bad for an entire season. That's when it starts to become hard work. But so please don't think we're kind of hating on the series as a whole because of the Web Planet. No, we don't think that story worked, but overall very good. Especially, going into the Crusades, we were quite happy about that, weren't we, as a story?
Yeah, I mean, actually though, when I look back on the series, I feel like the Crusade is the one I remember the least, in the sense that I don't know how much I took in. I think I just struggled more because of the reconstructions, which doesn't bode well for Series 3. It's one that I think I would like to go back and watch the Crusade again. I think on some of the releases, I don't know whether it's on the new Blu-ray that's coming out of Season 2 or whether it was on the DVD. There were reconstructions of those stories with narration, I think, done by either Julian Glover or William Russell. I'm not sure. And I think having those versions of reconstructions probably make it easier to do when you can hear when someone narrates stuff for you, because often there might be things going on the screen that don't translate well into just audio and a single static image. So I'd quite like to go back and look at the Crusade again, I think, at some point. maybe in that form. It would be interesting. Maybe when we're coming up to season 3, we've got a lot of reconstructions. We might need to see if we can find some that have got, if there are versions out there where people have done narration and linked bits, that might be really useful for us.
So just to respond to this quickly, regardless of what you think about Web Planet, it needs respect for the ideas and bravery. I think that's a really good way of putting it. And Mark Kermode, the film critic, always says this, and I completely agree with him, is that he would far rather that something aims high and falls short than just plays it safe all the time. And that's absolutely what that story did. It aimed high for sure. So it does deserve to be applauded for that.
I saw something else about Julian. People just talking about Julian Glover there, and we had a conversation a few times about what Julian Glover had been in. And then I read the other day something else, that he'd been the voice of something in Doctor Who in the last few years, I swear. Or maybe it was something else. But if anyone knows what that is off the top of their head, without me having to sit here and Google in the middle of this, I swear he did the voice for something, like just a voice, and I was like, I hadn't twigged that it was him, but
very distinctive. And as you say, it might be hard to gauge certain things about the Crusades as a whole, as a story. The Crusades, sorry, it's singular, isn't it?
The story, not the whole.
So
not
people
the
are going to say, exactly. We're referring to the Doctor Who story here, but I think what did stand out from it was the performances, especially those arguments you get between Richard the Lionheart and the lady, and
Jean Marsh,
well done.
Now you mentioned that, I remember us talking about that at the time, and there was some really great drama there. Those bits with those two and their conversations were really good, actually.
People are picking up on that here as well. Absolutely. And it presented Richard the Lionheart, who in my head, from how he's been portrayed in other things, I think of him as, I think he's often portrayed as a bit of a hero, but I thought what was interesting was there was quite a nuanced portrayal of him in The Crusade, and that he was actually quite a ferocious character in a sense, quite ruthless. Whereas Saladin was actually quite sympathetic to a degree, which was interesting given it was made in the 60s, so that was quite good to see, wasn't it? But it was it was a kind of different approach to things, wasn't it? I mean, I've just come to my mind that maybe we don't need to talk about it. I was just going to say, I think was that the first story this season, or maybe the only story this season, where we had a few issues around like the portrayal of people of colour, just kind of I mean, it's of its time. I think I think as people said in the comments at that point, it is of its time. So I mean, for me, obviously, I look at it and I go, it's really not great that that's how people were. That's how they chose people to act, in those roles. But I totally understand it was, that was very much how things happened in those days. It doesn't take away, I think, from my enjoyment of the stories, even if I know perhaps not everything in them is ideal. No, that's a good point. That's worth mentioning. Okay, so after the Crusade, I just remember we when we were watching the reconstructions, we kept getting adverts for Premiere Pro, didn't we?
That's what it was. Who's just said that in the comments? Gordon W. Aragog the Spider in Harry Potter. Yes, it wasn't Doctor Who. That's what I read. Julian Glover was the voice of Aragog the Spider in Harry Potter. Thank you. Right, so
that's a great
I've got
reference.
His Wikipedia page here, and I'm just scrolling, trying to talk and scroll through, going, he does so many things. Like,
that's amazing.
So, yes. There we go. That's the thing. So I knew that would have Quatermass and the... yes. I've never seen Quatermass, actually, but I know it's got quite a few ties to Doctor Who, I think, hasn't it? And Blake 7 was another one we talked about, you and I, a little bit, didn't we? Which I did find on BritBox in the end. But,
did you know this?
No, I didn't know that.
Played Ian in An Adventure in Time and Space.
No.
Space and Time. Wow.
There you go. Well, there we go.
Cool.
We're all learning.
Yeah.
Well, we're learning. Everyone else already knows.
Exactly. This is the great thing about our viewers. They inform us. Okay, so then the Space Museum.
Premiere Pro during the Space Museum. My goodness. What was that about?
Ridiculous.
The Space Museum, yeah, I mean, oh gosh. It's an odd one, the Space Museum, isn't it? It's got some really nice ideas. It's got the central idea is brilliant, wasn't it? That you picked up on right at the start. Seeing themselves in the cases in the future. How can you avoid the future that you've already seen? And I think we said at the end of that, again, it's an idea that doesn't quite get developed fully. It doesn't get explored too much. They just kind of get on with trying not to fall into the future of it. So there could have been more depth to that. I mean, I don't think Space Museum is going to go down as a classic in anyone's mind. And I suppose, when you think about it, it's mostly set in some not very inspiring spaces as well. But there were moments, again, that, like you said, the setup was great, again, of the whole concept overall is brilliant. And I did enjoy in that second episode, even though it may be a bit drawn out, the conversation between Hartnell and the governor, I think it was, where Hartnell is a prisoner, but it very much feels like, it felt to me like he was the Doctor, as we kind of know him a bit more today, or her today. Where even when they're a prisoner, it's like they're in control. You've got no doubt that the Doctor is going to be on top of things. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know this is obviously just right at the end, teeing up the next story. But when I saw that Dalek, I got really excited because I genuinely didn't know that was coming. What's quite nice about doing these reactions is people have been very good in the comments, I think. I mean, I do read the comments sometimes, but a lot of these kind of revelations going through the series have come as a complete surprise to me, including the fact that the Daleks were going to feature again. So I got very excited when we heard their voice at the end there. Yeah. Which brings us into...
Yeah. The chase.
The chase.
Well, I mean, you know that I've got a lot of love for the chase. And something I've really enjoyed in the comments was people saying like, oh, I had that Dalek tin. You know, we had that in our house. And they said I had the Trial of a Time Lord tin. And I'm like, yes, we had that. Not that you know what that is yet, Thomas, but we'll save that for later. But
yeah. Well, we'll cut to the chase, shall we? Yeah.
I mean, what's your reflections on the chase? Because, I mean, for me, I'm aware... I think we said a number of times that I really like it, but it's got that nostalgia element for me, whereas for you, it just doesn't have that at all. So what were your kind of overall feelings on it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Does it hold up just watching it without any sense of nostalgia? I really enjoyed it, actually, but partly because I think you told me going into it that it's a romp. And so I didn't feel worried about that being the case. I was willing to allow for a Dalek story that's a romp. Okay, I was like, that'd be interesting to see. So I think because I went into it expecting it to not be taking itself too seriously, because that's the thing about it, it doesn't take itself seriously. It's not like the Web Planet that's trying to be down the line and it ends up just, you end up laughing at it. I think the Daleks, the chase, you're very much laughing with it because everything about the music and the lines are telling you that this is not to be taken seriously. Now, I can understand why people might have a problem with that. For a Dalek story, does it undermine the Daleks? But at this stage, you know, Doctor Who's still figuring out what it is, I guess. And so you couldn't get away with it now. It would diminish the Daleks if you did it now, which I think we said at the time. But I flippin' loved it. I thought it was hilarious, especially the bit where they're on the ship and the one just falls off and goes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got so, like, I think, who's it? We've got the old porn bots have just arrived.
I'm going to block them.
Stimulus Respond said the chase seems like two-parters with 2 episodes of randomness in between. And I think that's fair. But I quite enjoy it, though, because you've got the 2 bits on Iridius, haven't you? And then you've got the kind of 2 bits on the end with the mechanoid planet. And then you've got the bits in the middle with New York and the Mary Celeste and the haunted house.
Yeah, the haunted house was a bit of a curveball, wasn't it? I was worried when that happened. I was like, what is this doing? But then I thought it was clever, the revelation that they were in a kind of fairground.
Yeah, I just love it, really. The only thing for me that I find hard in the chase. Not hard, but just winds me up, as I think was obvious on the reaction, was the duplicate doctor.
Right.
Because it's just like, what is going on? Like, why? Just it's so inconsistent. I can't get my head around what anyone was thinking on that shoot there.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a lot of fun. I'm really gutted that they cut out the Beatles bit. And we've had a few people point us to that, and we haven't quite got to looking at it yet. Maybe might be worth us trying to watch it and just do a really short reaction video to just that bit and get it up.
Literally to that scene, because I was excited to see the Beatles.
I was really disappointed. And I was going to say something else about that first episode. It's clearly gone. Oh yeah, the Dalek coming out of the sand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Apart from the noises. But I think it was really good you included that image of them trying it for real. Because they tried to pull it out of the sand, the life-size prop, didn't they? And it didn't work. You kind of get a glimpse of that, of what a good idea is in there, but maybe doesn't quite come to fruition in the way it did in Dalek Invasion of Earth with the Dalek coming out of the water.
Yeah.
So again, that's one of those things that I look at and I go, oh, you're really trying to do great thing, and trying to come up with a really striking image there. The constipated Dalek, that's right, yeah. and the stupid Dalek as well.
Oh yeah, the one that has the really weird voice.
4 Earth minutes. It's just...
Yeah. Some things don't work, like, I don't think it makes sense for a Dalek to say and and also, how do they not notice that Vicki isn't in the TARDIS when they escape the haunted house place? Like, that is terrible, kind of, that is really bad, isn't it? That they're like, they depart in the TARDIS and they're like, oh, Vicki isn't here. Oh, no. But other than that, brilliant. Yeah. And again, an emotional end to the story, which, again, I genuinely didn't know was coming because... people have been very gracious in the comments and not revealing too much. So that came as a complete surprise to me. I assumed Ian and Barbara would be on to the end of the series, possibly even for another series. So to see them go, I think was really well done. Maybe perhaps even better done than Susan's departure in a way. I thought it was really nice to see them kind of running through the streets and the pigeons and on the bus, and just... because they've been such an integral part of the show, and kind of pioneers as early companions, it really kind of hit hard, didn't it, to lose them? Yeah. Yeah.
And I think because, to me, I mean, we never quite know. We don't really know whether Ian and Barbara were together. Although someone pointed out in the comments, so I think it gets mentioned in the Sarah Jane adventure, that Sarah Jane... So this I suppose is canon, if you want to call it that. She says something about that she researched the Doctor's assistants, and including 2 school teachers from the 60s who hadn't aged since then.
Wow.
And I think the implication was they were married as well, or were together. So that gets mentioned, I think, in a Sarah Jane adventure. So if Ian comes back, if they do bring William Russell back, does he have to look like he did in the 60s? But yes, I think... Yes, I think that what James A. Fitzpatrick has just said about comparing Ian and Barbara before and after, they're much more likeable people after their stint with the dog. I think that's something about their whole characters. They are very likeable. And I did see a clip from, I think it's part of the new, because season 2 is imminently to be released on Blu-ray, and they do a lot of extra work for these. I've not bought any because I find, having bought so many VHS, I couldn't bring myself to buy many DVDs of Doctor Who, and now I can't bring myself to buy the Blu-rays either. But they do a lot of extra work for these season box sets where they get lots of extra material, and it looks like they've done some new interviews with people, including William Russell, and I saw the trailer for it, and a guy asked him in the trailer, so were Ian and Barbara in love? And I think he just went, well, and then it cut because it was the trailer. You didn't get it. So part of me would like to see that, to know what William Russell thinks. But in my head, as I said, happily married.
Who knows? Yeah.
Look, there we go. It says in the Day of the Doctor, there's a sign on the Coal Hill School which says Ian Chesterton, headmaster.
Oh, really? Oh,
So
that's
there
really
you go.
nice. So they were accepted back into the school. And yeah, Paul Morris has said, I like the photo montage, farewell. Yeah, that was really nicely done, wasn't it? Just the kind of the joy at being the kind of mundane things returning back to earth afterwards was really nicely done.
Just seeing there, Chemdog saying the only Blu-ray I have is Tom Baker's first season. That just reminds me. The only Blu-ray I'd be tempted to get is there is one of the Tom Baker seasons has got the Tom Baker Years on, which was a VHS thing where Tom Baker basically does his own goggle box and watches a clip from every episode he ever did, which was an amazing video. I remember I got it for £4, double video set because the box was damaged. I got it for £4 when I was a kid and I loved it. And I'd love to see that again, but I can't find it anywhere online, so I might have to spend money to do that. But
Sure. What's a DVD, Paul?
yeah, exactly.
No, I'm joking. Can I just say...
I would put one on when I was listening to music on my wax cylinder. That's what I would do.
Yeah. A lot of people have been commenting that we're making them feel really old. So the fact that the first episode of Doctor Who I saw was Rose, and then you talked about the first episode you saw, and people were like, that makes me feel so old. Look, guys... Don't worry about your age. It's okay. You were our age once. We'll be your age one day. Hopefully. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. Please don't feel bad for being the age you are. Whatever age you are, you could not help it. You could not be any other age. So please stop sending comments about, oh, you're making me feel really old.
Dear me. There we go. We've just been asked. Oh, hello. Hello, Wilton.
How old are you guys? You should never ask members of the Shallow Proclamation their age. How old are you, Paul?
I'm 36.
Nice. Yeah, I'm 23, I think.
Oh, shut up. No. What? I thought you were 20. I thought you were older than that. Oh, never mind.
How dare you be the age that you are? There's no point being grown up if you can't be childish. That's the nice thing about revisiting these Doctor Who episodes from your childhood, is that you feel like it rekindles something of what you were when you were a child. I know I'm going to be hit so hard by that when we get to Christopher Eccleston, because I'll be like, I remember watching these in my pyjamas, kind of with a bowl of cornflakes, Are you
going to recreate that when we get there? You've already done it in your dressing gown. We know that. So pyjamas and a bowl of cornflakes. If it's not a bag of lettuce and a brioche, there we go.
That's a reference to an idea for a Doctor Who episode. Brioche Boy, the superhero who, when he claps his hands, a brioche appears somewhere
in the universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dear me. Okay. Well, should we talk Time Meddler?
So Paul Morris, but you see that is such an honour to have people of a wide range of stages on our channel, watching our channel. But like the fact that someone's watching our channel who saw the first ever episode of Doctor Who when it was broadcast, that's incredible. So yeah. I'm slightly envious of you, Paul, in a way, actually. So yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? How old do you think you'll be when you finish?
We'll good question. Finish. Good question. Yeah. Oh dear. Yes.
Okay, so that was the
Time Meddler. The Time Meddler. So wow. Yeah, we're fresh off the back of that one, really, aren't we? Just to say, actually, before someone did say, I think it was James A. Fitzpatrick said, "Oh, the Tom Baker years?" ? I did not hear that. I don't know whether if you meant there, James, that are you saying there was a Tom Baker years video? I didn't know that. If you are saying that, yes, there was, and it was really good. So okay. Seek it out if you can find it, because it was brilliant. If you meant something else, sorry. Time Meddler, yes. I mean, brilliant. What a final story for the season. I loved it. It looks great. The sky looks great. The set looks great. The lighting is great. Hartnell's great. Vicki and Stephen are great together, even though Stephen's literally appeared for all of 5 minutes and suddenly they're off quite happily together.
Yeah, he's quite a nice addition, isn't he? He's good value. Yeah.
Peter Purvis. There you go. Not Purves.
Yeah, and performances. Peter Butterworth, great.
Yeah, he was great. Yes, just to say to James A. Fitzpatrick, yes, yes, I see you did have the VHS. It's on one of the season Blu-rays as a special feature, but I don't know which one off the top of my head. But like I say, it's the only thing that might tempt me to pick up the season Blu-ray, I think. But the Time Meddler, what a great story. What a finish.
I mean, I know it's weird to talk about season finales at this point because although the series do the episodes aren't completely standalone, they do reference past episodes. As a general rule, there isn't a sense that the series is building to a massive climax, as it would do in the modern era. It's a criticism of the modern era, which I think is quite valid, actually, is that with each series finale, the stakes have to be higher than they've ever been before. So there's this sense of, we need to make you believe that this is the worst thing that has ever happened in the show, the worst thing that the Doctor could possibly face.
Which is right, because actually the Battle of Ranzav Kolos, or whatever it was called, at the end of... That was the worst thing that's ever happened before. No, and that's unfair. I'm sorry.
But then there's a sense that, but inevitably the Doctor will reverse the polarity, sorted. So I get that criticism. I mean, there are some great series finales in the modern era, but it is a good point. But what's interesting is the Time Meddler did feel like more of a finale than the Reign of Terror did. I mean, it took the show a lot further in those 4 episodes than I think a lot of the series did, especially implying that there are other time travelers out there with their own TARDI. I was very proud I put that in the title. The plural of TARDIS is TARDI. So I thought it was great. Very evocative, as you were saying, with the sky, the projection of the sky constantly moving, and the sound of the monks singing. It's brilliant, isn't it?
And I think one thing that a few people mentioned in the comments was that we didn't reference the sort of the insinuated rape of Edith. And we did talk about it actually, didn't we? But it obviously didn't make the cut. But that I remember saying at the time that is really, it's quite. I thought she was dead initially. And she, I thought she'd been raped and killed. So it's got that, it's quite a hard edge. This is tea time stuff for children. Well, not necessarily for children, but children are present to watch this. There's, I can't see the show doing something like that in the modern era. I can't think that it's ever done anything that suggested something, even if it, would never say it explicitly, obviously. But I can't even think it's touched on those kind of things. So it's a lot going on in there.
That was pretty rough, wasn't it? That's a good point actually, in terms of sometimes we do get a comment say, you didn't react to this bit. Obviously we react to the entire episode, but it's a question of which bits we can include in our condensed YouTube version. But so apologies we didn't comment on that at the time, but we were pretty taken aback by that, but probably quite an accurate portrayal of what the Vikings were like, I guess. They were nasty, weren't they?
Should we dive into a few questions that people have given us? Yes, that's fair, isn't it? Modern Doctor Who, sometimes they would raise the stakes spectacularly, just to disappoint us even more spectacularly. Should we look at a few questions, because people have been put a few questions in the comments on videos.
Go for it.
So Andrew Bowman said, of the seasons you've watched, 2, which would you say had the strongest stories overall? I think for me, I'd just say season 2.
Yeah, that's unanimous. I think unanimous. Animus.
Oh, sorry. dude. Bobby Dazzler said, considering how much the show changes between Planet of Giants and the Time Meddler, are you surprised how easily you adapted?
Great question. Well, I think part of the charm of the show is you never know where it's going to go, do you? You went there, did you? Oh, you went there, did you? Okay. So I think it's part of the fun of it. It did feel like it kind of overall got better as the series progressed in terms of Planet of Giants, we said, felt a bit out of place. It almost feels more like a season 1 story, and as you were saying, it was filmed during the period of season 1, wasn't it? So yeah, I think that's a good point, that there is a shift over the course of series 2, and I think it does find its feet a bit more towards the end, especially with the Time Meddler, which is satisfying to watch, I'd say.
Yeah, actually it ties in with another question we had from James 31805. What changes or progress do you feel Doctor Who is making? And actually, season 2 does feel, like I said at the beginning, Planet of Giants feels so long ago, it feels very different. I think, when I compare it to what was going on in season 1, it feels... the show just feels a bit more established. Like the first season, there's lots of good stuff in the first season. Yeah. But I think I've always got this sense, when I was watching through those stories, or when we watched through them together, it doesn't quite feel like Doctor Who yet, like to me. I know it is Doctor Who, but there's so much about the show that isn't quite... I don't know what I mean, really. It just doesn't feel like it's quite there yet as the show I know and love. It's kind of moving towards it, and there's glimmers of it. But I think by the end of this season, particularly by the Time Meddler maybe is a definite turning point. But I think you've got it earlier on as well. It really feels like it's... Yes, there we go, Paul Morris. It's settled into its stride in season 2. Exactly. There you go. Say it much more clearly and straight away. Definitely got itself... Those things there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it does feel very different by the end. And I think, as we touched on, a few people have said... It's becoming less the ensemble cast, more the Doctor and his companions, which I think is what the show will become. It's going to be much more about the Doctor, as through the rest of the classic series. He will be the main character. Hartnell feels much more established. He seems to be much more sort of in a... the first season you've got all those weird bits where sometimes the Doctor's a bit of an anti-hero, isn't he? Where he sometimes is a bit of a git.
Yeah, and sometimes things happen kind of in spite of him rather than because of him, don't they? It's the companions who are the heroes, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. So whereas I think he's becoming more the hero we know. Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, I think Stimulus Respond, there are those who might say that it doesn't really settle down into Doctor Who for a few seasons yet. And I think, it will continue to develop into the kind of show we kind of think of and know and love. But for me, it's just it just felt like very different, I think by the end. So I think it is progressing and moving forward. It's a shame really that I think, obviously Hartnell seems to have hit his stride. Yeah. I don't know how much it will come across in season 3 with the number of reconstructions, but I think I think this is also the point really where Hartnell is getting more and more ill in real life. And so... I think we're going to see a lot more of kind of the line fluffing and stuff like that, and him finding it a bit harder. So I don't know what season 3 will quite look like on that front, but
sure.
Someone did put in the questions earlier, predictions for season 3 from you, Thomas. Let's come back to that one.
Yeah.
That's a good one to keep there. Darren Lodge said, "What are your favourite moments featuring Ian and Barbara in season 2?"
I think the Romans has to be up there, doesn't it? And their departure is very well done, as people were saying, the photo montage, and so those two bits stand out to me. Yeah, can you think of any others, Paul?
For me, it's definitely the bit in the Romans where they're in the villa together, like just the relationship they have there. I just think that works really well. It's just a really nice moment, lovely kind of bit between them, really. And then actually Patrick Elshin said, "Are there any modern era companions that Ian and Barbara remind you of?" I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. Question. I tried to think it through and I couldn't... No one immediately leapt to mind. I think the one thing I was thinking was that Ian and Barbara seem to be much more... They get stuck in a way... I should say they seem more capable than 21st century companions in some ways. And I wonder, is that like...
Which is probably accurate, to be fair.
Well, I did wonder that. Were people just more capable of things in those days? And now we just sit and watch Netflix or make YouTube videos watching TV.
Yeah.
Were people in those days more capable and they come across like that? I don't know. That's not to say modern companions aren't, capable, but obviously it's a different thing as well. So,
an obvious line to draw is Clara, because she worked at Coal Hill School as a teacher. and the sense that she's quite a capable companion, isn't she? In terms of, I think reading Moffat at the time, there was almost a sense that she became a doctor, that she begins to act pretty much exactly like the Doctor, sort of making sacrifices. And then I realise this is a spoiler, but hopefully everyone on board is kind of, but the way it ends, with her basically doing the role of the Doctor in a TARDIS with companions. So that, maybe in terms of capability, there's a line you could draw there. But that's a really good question, isn't it? I don't know. They're all unique, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. Well, I mean, John G had asked how we found it overall compared to season 1. I guess we've kind of touched on that a bit. He said, what did you make of the increased level of comedy in the season? I guess we saw that in the Romans. We've touched on this a bit. And the Time Meddler. That was the really nice thing about the Time Meddler. The Time Meddler is not an all-out comedy in the way the Romans is, but it's just full of these wonderful little lines of dialogue, light touches that were full of, comedic moments that didn't make it a joke, but were funny. So I quite like the way that's gone. I was quite pleased with it. Yeah.
I think comedy is good if well done, and I think it was at many points. That's a good point. Donna is probably more age-wise in the ballpark of Ian and Barbara, and that's true. She is a more mature companion, isn't she?
Trying to think how old Donna is supposed to be, and I presumably she must be in her 30s, kind of roughly.
Yeah. Because I have to admit,
a different time of life, isn't it?
Exactly, and there's not there's
a difference between being 36 and being, what did you say you were, 26?
23.
Oh, you swine.
Sorry, I was born when I was.
Very inconsiderate of you, very inconsiderate.
But yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I find in the modern era a little bit tiresome when the kind of flirtatious side, especially in the Matt Smith era, there's a sense of the romance. But I know it was there in the Tennant era, but I think in moderation, I find it a little bit tiresome, the fact that they're constantly teasing romance between the Doctor and companions. I think you can do it at times, but I think it was a bit overdone. So I think that's what made Donna quite an interesting companion, because she has some great lines, doesn't she? She's like, "You're not mating with me, mister." And then equally, when Capaldi comes in, there's no longer that romantic element between Capaldi and Clara, is there? Which is quite interesting. She kind of goes through a slight grieving process because she's clearly in love with Matt Smith's Doctor. So, do you have any thoughts on that? Kind of just more mature companions are worth having in the show at times?
I think it just depends what you do with them, really. Because, I guess in recent seasons we've had Graham. And I think we've said Graham was the most... I certainly thought of the three, Graham was the best one. But I still don't think he was great, because I've not really enjoyed the series with him, the series he was in. I don't know, really. I think it's good to have a good mixture. Donna showed that it didn't need to be someone who was just like Rose was supposed to be sort of like 19, wasn't she? If that, like, kind of very young, working in the shop, and Martha's maybe a tiny bit older. I think it just depends what you do with them, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wonder what PAS.
All ages. There you go. There's a companion for all tastes and ages. That's the thing.
That's definitely an informed comment from a Doctor Who fan, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. The other question we had from Paul Hunter, who said, who's been your favourite companion this season? And I'm just going to say straight away, surprise to me, Vicki. But I actually wrote down, before I had any questions, I literally called it The Rise of Vicki. That's what I would call this season. Season 2, Doctor Who, The Rise of Vicki.
The rise of Vicks Vapor Rub.
Yeah.
That's all I think of when I
want less Vicks Vapor Rub on the lens, more of Vicki, please.
That's it, yeah. On screen, not on screen. Yeah.
Well, also, yeah. Also, like I was thinking, I would like to see Maureen O'Brien come back as Vicki.
Yeah.
More probably than I want to see Susan. Only because I think she's been used better, and I'd be interested to see her relationship with the Doctor. So, I mean, that's what surprised me, that I was sitting there going, oh, I'd quite like her to come back. I really like her, because, like I say, I'd overlooked her. So
yeah. I think Barbara was my favourite companion in Series 1. That was really her time to shine, wasn't it, for a lot of those stories. And I think I'd agree with you that Vicki is a very good character in a lot of the stories in Season 2, isn't she? So, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, if we start thinking a bit about Season 3, it'll be interesting to see how Stephen develops. Yeah, I mean, because someone has said, we've had a couple of questions about here, like Gordon W. said, will we do a ranking of the episodes you watched so far? We've not really talked about it. I mean, I don't think we'll do a kind of, out of 10 type rating for ones. If you do want a kind of a good place to look at ratings for them, if you pick up, I don't know if any of you guys ever read the blog, the Neil Perryman and Sue Perryman blog, Adventures with the Wife in Space. If you've not, I don't think it's online anymore. I think because it turned into a book. But if you pick up those books, it's a Doctor Who fan watching Doctor Who with his non-Doctor Who fan wife. And she does give every story a rating, and she's hilarious as well in the process. So search out those things, The Wife in Space. If you want that kind of thing, they're great. They're worth getting. Lots of good fun in there. I think I'd struggle to rate things too much. Yeah, this is exactly true, Paul Morris. Vicky does have more of a granddaughter-father relationship with the Doctor than Susan did. I think that's so right.
That's a good point.
Yes, Titan Sci-Fi, I have seen something in the box set trailer with Vicky, but we'll save that because we might drop that in.
Nice.
Yeah. So the questions that come up for, someone has said about the Galaxy 4 in Series 3, predictions for Season 3 from you, Thomas. But then we've also got the question, will you watch Galaxy 4 in the animation which came out last year? And if so, will it be in colour or black or white? We'll definitely watch the animation. I think there's one existing episode, isn't there, if I'm right, or off the top of my head. So we'll probably try and watch the actual live existing episode. It seems a bit strange to me that with the animations now, they've not just reanimated missing episodes, but also existing episodes, which I don't quite understand why. So we will watch probably the animation with the orphaned episode slotted in. I guess it depends which one we can find, whether in colour or black and white, really. Because the animation, I don't think that animation is on BritBox yet. I'm not sure whether the other animations that were on BritBox are in colour either. Only some of the later, more recent ones they've started doing in colour and black and white. So we might have to check and see what they are on BritBox. But yes. Any predictions for Season 3 then, Thomas?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I feel like Season 2 has thrown me. I can't remember if we had any predictions going into it. I think I suggested that I thought that Vicky and Barbara and Ian's potential romantic relationship would be explored, which it wasn't really, was it?
No, and I remember you saying, and I thought, no, it never really gets developed.
So I was wrong about that. So I've kind of been, my confidence has been knocked in my ability to predict anything. We did predictions for the centenary recently, and we'll see how right we were about that. So I don't know. Series 3, I think, how long will Stephen be in it for? I'd be intrigued to find out. Will they bring in another companion? I'm going to say they're going to bring in another companion so that they have 3 again. And I think the Time Meddler might reappear. That's a guess that I'm just throwing out there. I have genuinely no idea. But seems like he'd be a reasonable foil to the Doctor to bring back. I guess it's pointless asking you because you know what's going to happen.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of these things. James A. Fitzpatrick said, will you watch the student-made Mission to the Unknown? I think, I don't know how much you know about this, Thomas, but I mean, in my head, I think we are going to do that. So there is a 1-episode story that is missing, although there are clips from it around. But it was remade by students, I think, from the University of Lancashire, one of the two. I'm I'm not sure. And it's actually on the BBC YouTube channel, so it's it's not just kind of one of those things that someone made and popped online somewhere. Like the BBC have actually picked it up and gone, hey, look at this. So we'll definitely use that.
It's endorsed, yeah.
And it would be, given that we've got so many reconstructions for season 3, it'd be nice to have some moving images.
Yeah.
One thing that would be nice for you, Thomas, at some point is maybe some of these missing, particularly more this season, I guess. There are parts of stories that were, even though they're missing, there are little clips of bits, I guess, that exist. And I think that might be from censors in other countries. When they sent the episodes to other countries, sometimes they would censor parts of it and cut bits out. And occasionally those cut out bits survived somehow, or maybe a tiny bit was shown on a TV program and that survived, even if the main episode was wiped. So it may be that on a couple of stories we get on these recons, you might actually be able to watch some of the original existing footage on YouTube as well, just the little snippets. Because sometimes it just brings it to life a little bit, just even if it's just, here's 6 seconds of where something moves. I don't know. Some of it might have been incorporated into some of those loose cannon reconstructions anyway. So we might actually see a few moving images even in the middle of our recons, but I don't know.
Sure, yeah. Well, I suppose... Sorry, my voice has been so affected this evening. I suppose we don't want to keep people up too long, although we do still have 23 people watching. So, guys, that's very... Yeah, we love having you here. That's very...
I really appreciate you guys joining us.
Yeah.
We should probably begin to wrap it up. We just to say, because the plan is for us to watch the centenary on Sunday. We're going to try and watch that pretty much live-ish. It won't be up on YouTube live, but we will try and watch it pretty quickly on the evening for you guys. I'm not sure. Where are you? At 4:40. Where? That it's 4:40 p.m.
That makes us feel better. So you're not staying up too late.
No, absolutely not. I've lost my train of thought now. What was I talking about? Centenary.
You're talking about,
that's it.
Yeah, centenary.
Yeah, so we'll try and get that up there. I don't really know how I'm feeling about the centenary because it's no secret that the Chibnall era hasn't been my favourite, and I'm probably not going to miss Whittaker's Doctor hugely either. So I will see what comes of it. I hope it's good. I do want it to be good and just an enjoyable story. So and then before we get into season 3, I think Thomas and I need to watch the Dalek movie, the first Dalek movie as well. We might watch the little bit of the chase with the Beatles if we can find that as well. So we'll have a few bits coming up still, and then we'll be back into the swing again with season 3, and go from there, I suppose.
Oh, I have a small thing to share with people now. So some of you may know a while back I did that ukulele cover of the Doctor Who theme.
Yes.
And someone, I don't know who knows, someone sent that, so it's on the channel. It was just a video I put out sort of during the holiday, the summer holiday, and someone sent it to Doctor Who magazine, and they actually shared it in the kind of, sort of fan art section of the magazine. So I don't know if that was someone who works for the magazine or someone who watches the channel sent it to them. We definitely didn't send it to them.
It's a surprise to us.
But something that's so it's issue 582. It has Sacha Dhawan on the cover. And something that's quite funny about it is that I just stumbled upon this guy called C. Lebetkin, also known as the Rabbi from Another Planet. And he's got quite a good channel, actually. It's a really good channel where he really knows his stuff, and his shelves are covered with Doctor Who merch. And he just does all sorts of stuff about, why he thinks the Chibnall era hasn't worked as well. And he has clips of Moffat talking in ways that seem weirdly prescient now as to why maybe the Chibnall era hasn't worked so well. Moffat talking about Doctor Who should be apolitical and stuff like that. So it's really worth checking out his channel. But he also reacts to Doctor Who magazine. And I just thought I'd share this 17-second clip of him reacting to the fact that my ukulele cover is advertised in the magazine, so I will just put this on.
At the 5th anniversary celebration on Jacqueline. Oh man, he was Jacqueline. Carole, Doctor Who thing with ukulele by Thomas Thorogood. Okay, whatever. You enjoy, mate. You enjoy.
Whatever. You enjoy it.
Oh, that's so funny, isn't it? Oh man, I love
it.
Brilliant. Ukulele covers of Doctor Who. It's all right if you like that sort of thing. But yeah, it's worth it. Paul and I, we're both musicians actually, so who knows? We might bring our music to. Yeah, what's that behind you? We might do some more musical covers or just have a bit of fun from time to time on the channel if people like that sort of thing. But that's quite funny that video was randomly put in Doctor Who magazine without us knowing. It was a friend I have who reads the magazine. He just messaged me and said, "Mate, look who I found in Doctor Who magazine." So there we go.
Well, should we wrap up there?
Yeah, it's been great. I do apologise again for my croakiness. I haven't quite been 100%, but this has been very worthwhile.
I thought, what with your age, Thomas, it was just puberty had hit.
Wow, Paul. Wow. Okay.
Anyway.
I can't believe you're annoyed about my age. Are you just putting that on for this live stream? You knew I was 23, right?
I thought you were 24 at least. Like, did you not turn 24 the other day?
No. January.
Are you sure you're counting right? No.
I could get my passport out if you want.
We're all good. We're all good. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. It's been good fun. And we hope you've enjoyed what we've been doing with season 2. And like I say, we've got a few bits coming up the next few weeks of other episodes, and we'll be back for season 3. And we'll keep cracking on. And we'll, we love having you guys on board. We love seeing the same names pop up. Love seeing your comments. All the bits of trivia, all the kind of bits of banter as well. It's all good fun. So, thanks very much. Take care and enjoy the centenary. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Shallow proclamation out. Yeah, let's just keep waving. We're going to keep waving until the number of viewers drops down to 0. We might be waiting for a long time.
Thomas is now 36.
Yeah. It's still at 23. I'm beginning to think this was a bad idea.
This is
Right, we're going to give you 1 minute, guys. Very funny.
They're calling our bluff here, Thomas.
You're playing chicken. People are saying good night and bye, but they're not actually leaving. Oh, you guys are great, aren't they? No, honestly, we really appreciate all the viewers. It's been lovely to engage with you, even if you do pull stunts like this. Okay, one person has left. Thank you. Very good. What's that?
I've been waving for so long now. It doesn't feel like I'm actually waving anymore. I feel like I'm washing a window. Like it's lost all meaningfulness now. This movement, it's just become a random waggle.
Absolutely. What is that symbol? It's like a emoji that's been cut in half.
I don't know. Can't see that.
Oh, we've lost another viewer. Thanks, guys.
Come on, I've got to go to bed.
Yeah, I think we're going to call it here. We're very fun. It was a stupid idea. I knew people were going to do that. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul. And we'll be back soon.
See you guys. Bye-bye.